Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here at Real Life with Andrea. If you are liking our content, please consider subscribing to our channel and supporting us that way. You can also hit the notification button so that you will be notified when I upload any content. So the topic that we're getting started with today is being a foster parent of teenagers. And it's a very complex topic. Some of it just applies to parenting in general, and some of it is going to apply specific to being a foster parent, because the journey of foster parenting is a little bit different than raising your own biological children. So we're going to have a multi-day topic here, and we're just going to get started today with a little bit of an overview and some of the things that you need to think about if you are considering being a foster parent of teenagers. And there are people out there who do this very, very well, and kudos to them. They do a very good job, but they follow a lot of these same principles in being able to build relationship with these teenagers, which I think is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. But the way that we start out with these kids is that we have to build that trust, and we have to show that integrity to them, that we are trustworthy, that we're not like everybody else in their lives, that we love them, that we care about them, and that they can trust us. And so one of the things that I want to challenge people as they're thinking about it is that before you take those children in, that you need to have a set of boundaries, expectations, and rules that you have decided are going to be kind of the core of your home. And there will be things that come up because of circumstances. Some things will be specific to one child, but there's always going to be a general set of rules that apply to the household in general. And so for one of those rules might be in our home, one of those rules is that there are no sleepovers of people of the opposite sex, period. And if you have your boyfriend or your girlfriend over, or friends that are of the opposite gender, you're not in your room with the door closed, and probably not in your room at all, but depending on your household, that might be a little different, but definitely not with the door closed. And so we go through that. That's one of the boundaries. That's one of the rules at this house, and here is why. And that rule, as a single parent, also applies to me. I am not having somebody come over and spend the night that is of the opposite sex, because that is a boundary. That is something that I believe is supposed to be for marriage. And so because of that, that's my boundary. That's a boundary that I have for my children. And it doesn't matter whether they are my biological children. It doesn't matter whether they're stepchildren. It doesn't matter if they're my adopted child. It doesn't matter if it's a foster child. It is a boundary that is set for this household. And so I challenge people to think about the things that God has set forth for us, rules that He has set forth for us in those 10 commandments, and try to apply those to rules, setting rules and boundaries within our home. Once we have those rules and we're able to articulate them and have them as a written staple for our family code, let's say, then the next part of that is that we have to live those things consistently. Not only do we have to live it consistently, but we have to also enforce it consistently. And what does that look like? So it can't be, oh, well, so-and-so is going out of town, and so they don't want to leave Joey home alone, so can Joey come over and spend the night? And Joey is Heaven's boyfriend. Well, no, that's not going to really work out for us. I'm sorry, that's a boundary that's not set. You'll have to find someplace else for Joey to spend the night, because that is a boundary that we have set, and we're not moving that boundary because we believe that that is something that is set forth for us by God, that we don't want to invite that temptation into our situation. So how we consistently live that out, how we don't move that boundary, and because once we break that boundary, once we move that boundary, we are no longer trustworthy. So as parents, we have to be careful about the boundaries that are set. And sometimes less is more. So we start with less, and then if we need to build in a new boundary because of behavior or because of different situations that come up, then we can always put in a new boundary. But we can't necessarily take out boundaries, because that makes us not trustworthy. So, and then the last part of that boundary setting is that we have to be honest and humble enough to go and say, hey, you know what? I messed up. I set that boundary that we are going to not be rude to each other. We're not snapping on each other in this house. If we have something to say, we're going to say it in a nice tone. We're going to say it calmly. We're going to talk to each other with respect. And I didn't do that. I came at you. I yelled at you, and that shouldn't have been the way that happened. So being able to admit when you have been wrong is an extremely important piece of this puzzle, because that sets up a household where the person who's in charge, the people who are in charge, are trustworthy, and they don't have rules for themselves and rules for us, and that we have to respect each other, and we know exactly what that looks like because they outline for it, and we know that it's hard to do, and we know that when they mess up, they're going to come and they're going to tell us they're sorry. And so I can trust that. I can trust that these rules are good. I can trust that, you know, it's hard to keep, and I can trust that the people who are setting those rules are also following those rules. And so setting that foundation of trust is super important, and the only real way that we can do that well is by planning ahead what we think that those things should look like. What are those core values that in my home we aren't going to step over the line? And if we are, then there's consequences associated with that. And what does that look like? And sometimes it's a broken relationship. So I have one child, and is consistently just rude. And so when she is upset, and so the thing that it's like, you're gonna have to go to your room and you're gonna have to figure that out. We've talked about it. You're being rude to me. You're gonna have to go to your room, and when you're ready to come and talk to this with me in a kind way, then we can work through this. But until that, we can't, and my feelings are hurt, and so the relationship is broken, and so we need to be separated from each other. And it works pretty well with her. She'll go to her room. She might be there for 5 or 10 minutes. Occasionally she'll be there for a long time. She really digs in her heels, but ultimately she wants our relationship to be restored, so she will come back out. She will make that apology, and we'll be able to talk well. But it's hard for me to have her go and do that, because I want to repair right now. I want to chase her down, and I want to repair that relationship. But knowing that I need to give her space to work through that, even though she's only 10, right? She's perfect. It's the stage in which we need to start teaching and training that. So making sure that we know, how are we going to respond? What is the ideal way for us to be? How are we going to manage and let go? How are we going to allow those children to make their own decisions? Because they will. Let's be real. God has given them the ability to make choices. They have given me the ability to make choices. God forgives me when I disobey him, which happens all the time, right? It's sin. And we need to also be forgiving and understanding when they disobey us. And we set up those consequences, but we dole them out in love and kindness. And we're doing this for your own good, because we want to build a future for you that is different than your past. And so having that plan, having those ideas set, having a core that you believe in is really the most important. You are the core of your family. And so even as we're bringing kids in and they're going out, that core needs to remain the same, and it needs to be strong, and it needs to be unbreakable. And you have to know that whatever it is that you set up in that core, you can't break, because if you break it, then you can't be trusted. So those are some things really to think about. They're kind of the foundation of what is that core, and that's going to give you the strength and the ability to set those expectations and rules, and to bring different children in and to kind of work through that with them and help them to begin to establish their own identity and their own ability to set boundaries, how to keep boundaries, how to apologize, how to build relationship, and all those things. And it starts at that core. So we are going to talk tomorrow a little bit more about the difference between parenting teens that are your bio kids and parenting foster kids, and the luxuries that we have. But also, some of those things are the same no matter how you've raised your bio kids. We struggle through some of the same issues, whether they are bio kids or whether they are foster kids. So that's tomorrow's topic. I hope that you will tune in for that. Again, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification button so that you know when I upload that content. I thank you for joining me today. I thank you for taking this journey with me. I thank you, the person who put that comment in there that wanted to know a little bit more about how I parent teenagers in the foster care system. It's a great question, and we will work through that throughout this week. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.